Hey everyone. Last week, Representative Brian Sims of the 182nd District in Pennsylvania drew backlash from both the right and the non-radicalized left when he filmed himself harassing pro-life advocates quietly praying in front of his local Planned Parenthood. Never mind that this particular location has multiple health and safety violations, he decided to throw racist insults at both an elderly woman and a group of young girls, going so far as to offer payment for the doxing of children, something a lawyer like Sims should know is illegal. Sims's stunt and his subsequent non-apology reminded me of how I used to view pro-lifers when I was an abortion supporter. I have to reconcile with myself that for many years, I cried more while watching ASPCA commercials than I did at the thought of tens of millions of aborted babies. I made a video several months ago detailing my journey from pro-choice to pro-life, but I don't think I spent enough time talking about the misconceptions I had about the pro-life position. So I want to start by thanking Brian Sims for inspiring me to make this video today. So the biggest misunderstanding I had about pro-lifers is that I thought everyone who was pro-life had to be religious. What I've realized is that being pro-life doesn't have to be a spiritual issue. It's a matter of established science, if you're willing to look at the facts. I've been honored to meet and exchange words with many atheists, anti-theists, agnostics, who all realize that biologically, life begins at conception, and God doesn't need to have anything to do with it. This leads me to my next incorrect assumption. I believed that if you were pro-life, you were anti-science, but that was because I was being intellectually lazy. I believed the manipulated information being pushed by abortionists like Planned Parenthood, when in reality, scientists have stated for decades now that human life as we define it begins at conception. The four defining characteristics of life are present at fertilization: their growth, reproduction, metabolism, and response to stimuli. Furthermore, a baby's biological sex, hair, and eye color are also all present at fertilization. And if you don't believe me, you can ask the Mayo Clinic and the American Heritage Dictionary of Science. They'll tell you that an unborn baby is just as much a clump of cells as every other living thing on Earth. It's not bigotry, it's biology. It's also not bigotry to want women to be accountable and ask them to be more responsible with their bodies. But back then, I thought people who were pro-life were a bunch of sexists who hated women, and the women who identified as pro-life are just being controlled by their husbands. The truth is that the majority of people who identify as being pro-life also view themselves as being pro-woman. They just believe that the woman growing in the womb has as much a right to life as the woman she's growing inside. Pro-life people are not anti-choice. They just wish you would make those choices before you get pregnant. And despite what you've heard, I have yet to meet a pro-lifer who would deny a woman this procedure if she or her unborn child's life was at serious risk. There are also very few that would demand a rape victim go through with the resulting pregnancy. We would strongly urge you not to punish the child for the sins of the father, but I have yet to meet the majority that think that you should be forced to do this. Before you at me about the recent pro-life bill in Alabama, understand that was a calculated move on their part to force this issue to the Supreme Court. Because whatever Planned Parenthood or NARAL wants you to believe, the truth is that by their own cited sources, abortions in the case of rape, incest, or serious risk to the mother's life factor very low on the list of reasons women have given for why they've chosen to abort their baby. The majority of women who choose to have abortions, over 70% of them, do so for reasons of convenience. I've written about this in the past over at twofingersbourbon.com, and I'll link to that in the description below so you can check my facts. So these sort of life choices are all ones a woman should be making before she engages in sex with any partner, including her husband. In America, we have such easy access to contraception, it's ridiculous. You can take a pill for free, you can get a shot or an insert, you can have your tubes tied. Nowadays, condoms are available for free at virtually every health clinic across the nation. I'm not saying accidents don't happen. I just wish that if you've used all these methods and you still get pregnant, you have a moral obligation to not punish that child with death. Remember that adoption is always an option, and you do not have to go through the nightmare of turning your newborn baby over to the state. There are so many nonprofit organizations across the country that provide pregnancy assistance and facilitate adoption. You can contact one at the very beginning. These people are committed to funding your pregnancy through the birth of your child and its subsequent placement in the screened home of a loving family. It is 2019, you guys. The fact of the matter is that an innocent life does not have to die just because you don't want to be inconvenienced. And as an adult, these are decisions you make before you have sex. And urging other women to understand the depth of responsibility that comes with the gift of being able to create life is not being sexist. But telling men they're not allowed to speak about reproductive rights is. So these were just a few of the misconceptions that I had about the pro-life movement when I was a supporter of abortion. For anyone out there who's currently pro-life and you're wondering how can they start the conversation with their pro-choice friends and family, I would say the number one thing you need to remember is to take a page from Brian Sims and realize that anger doesn't work. Name calling doesn't work. Demonizing abortion supporters doesn't work, because most of them are well-meaning people who are just being brainwashed by abortionists like Planned Parenthood. They care nothing for the health of women. They're simply building incredible wealth from the deaths of millions of children. So I would urge you to be kind and to be loving and to steer them towards the information they need to see. And I'll have links to some of that information below. So just remember how you felt when Brian Sims threw racist insults at an older woman for the crime of standing quietly and praying, or the rage you felt when he insulted a group of young girls, assumed their race, used that as an insult, and illegally offered $100 to anyone who could give him the personal information of those children. So if Brian Sims was trying to change people's minds and get them to see his side of the abortion debate, he failed miserably, and he gave us another reason to rally. The parents of one of the children he harassed has actually started a GoFundMe to raise money for a pro-life organization in Philly, and I'd like to take this moment once again to thank Brian Sims for inspiring me to donate to that campaign. I hope you do the same. I'm going to put a link to that in the description below. So thanks everyone for taking time to listen to what I had to say. And as always, be excellent to each other. And if you'd like to leave a tip, you can do so at paypal.me/twofingersbourbon. Thanks everyone.